All right. Welcome on in to Reclaiming Your Magic through Inner Reparenting. And so, in this masterclass, we're going to be diving deep into the process of how to heal, because often we have a spiritual awakening or we wake up to what's internally going on inside of us, and we have no idea what to do about it. Emotionally, we're stunted. Mentally, mental critic, the inner critic is going crazy. There's a lot going on. And so, how do we deal with it? And so, this masterclass is going to give you an idea of how to work through that process. So, starting off, welcome on in. If you don't know me, I'm Carissa, and anyone who truly knows me knows that I need freedom. A job that feels confining or a relationship that doesn't feel aligned, like I literally cannot. I cannot feel confined. It just does not go well with me. So I need my freedom and the choice to live a life that most aligns with me. And that comes with a cost, inner work and healing. You can't just live a life that feels aligned and feel blissful and feel free with having a bunch of heavy burdens, wounds, crap, trauma living inside, right? And so that is the cost, healing, inner work. So in 2018, I hit rock bottom, the place we usually have to get to begin opening up to our spiritual path. I had a really bad breakup at the time, no job, living with my dad, our relationship was not great at the time. And I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And so I felt confined, if you can imagine. Emotionally, mentally, physically, financially, I just felt so stuck, so depressed, and so unfulfilled. And I needed a way out. But the only way out was through. Cliche, but very true. Through my inner world, through healing my inner programming. And so diving into my inner world and doing my own inner work was my saving grace, for sure. And so, some side notes: I'm a free spirit, if you haven't already guessed, and I'm a lover of all things spirituality. I'm an Aries sun with a Gemini moon and a Leo rising, for some context. I am that friend who listens to Christmas music all year round. Christmas jazz is like some of my favorite music. And I love, 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 love nature. I love Mother Gaia and being outdoors. And the beach is one of my favorite places to be. Now, I moved into being a spiritual guide back in 2020 because I genuinely love this work. I know what it's like to feel stuck in old patterns, just completely disconnected from myself and unsure of how to move forward. And so my own healing journey has been a lot about peeling back the layers, transforming old beliefs, old stories, healing my inner child, learning to trust my intuition, embodying more safety, which is so important, which we're going to get to, embodying more safety and stepping into my power more fully. And going through all of that has completely changed my life. And so now guiding others through that same transformation lights me up. I love it. I love it so much working with clients and seeing them go through their own healing, their own growth, having aha moments, and honestly becoming the person that they want to be. It's so rewarding. And so, yeah, watching someone reclaim their joy and their confidence and their magic is massively rewarding for me. All right, now let's start off with what is the inner child? But before we dive into the definition, let's do a little practice, okay? So, what is the inner child? I want you to close your eyes and I want you to visualize yourself in your mind's eye, yourself as a child. And whatever your mind recalls, it could be you at 3, it could be you at 10, it could be you as a teenager, any age. Just let your mind go back to whatever memory. So you as a child, okay? And now with your eyes closed still and visualizing, imagine a time when your inner child felt scared and afraid and just unsafe. And there might be many memories coming to mind. There might be one specific one. Maybe you see your inner child crying or kind of hurtled. in a little corner or under her bed, under her sheets in her bed, just like scared. And now I want you to picture your inner child in a happy memory. A happy, and maybe this this might not come so easy to some people, but imagine your inner child happy and laughing and joyous and free before all of the adulting conditioning, earthly programming came into place. So that free, happy, joyous child. And now you can open your eyes. And that essentially is your inner child. That part of you that lives inside, that vision that you have, all of all of those years up until this date, all of those memories, all of those years, they are stored within you. And they are your inner child, your inner baby, your inner toddler, your inner teenager, right? And so your inner child is that little version of you that holds onto past memory, past pain, and past experiences. It is a living energy inside of you, stored in your unconscious mind and your nervous system. It's an aspect of the entirety of who you are. And it represents your authentic self before conditioning, that playful, creative, tender, curious essence of who you are, as well as the wounded parts of you that absorbed the pain and the fear and the limiting beliefs from when you were young. Now, the inner child, the needs of the inner child is to be seen, to be heard, to be protected, and loved. Those are like the main, I would say those are like the basic needs, especially if you do not receive those things growing up, right? And so, for instance, if you did not feel loved by your parents, your inner child may have deemed themselves unlovable, which brings down your self-worth and your confidence, right? And that's very disempowering. If you do not feel, and another example, if you do not feel seen as a child, you may unconsciously seek attention from others, needing external validation, or just feeling like you're not important, right? Because you didn't get that reassurance, you didn't get that feeling of being seen, being heard. And so you unconsciously seek it, right? And so, and that also ties back to the lack of self-worth and confidence that shows up in adult life, right? Worthiness issues in adult life. And so, honestly, our first decade of life truly impacts how we feel about ourselves and how we show up in the world. Okay, which is why it's so important to tend to the inner child because it holds so many memories, so many experiences, so much pain, so much joy as well. But a lot of the times, the pain masks the joy, right? And so we have to work through that pain and the shame, so much shame as kids. Um, and so your inner child, it learns the voice it was raised with, and it also embodies the energy of your household. So a hypercritical parent, if your parent's always telling you like that's not good enough, always criticizing what you're wearing, what you're saying, what you're reading, whatever the case, you will likely, almost guaranteed, develop a very hypercritical inner dialogue. All right, that inner critic will be loud. I had a very loud inner critic because my dad is still quite critical, hypercritical. He's gotten better over the years, but nothing ever seemed good enough. And so, as a kid, feeling like you're never good enough, you grow into teenagehood, adulthood, never feeling good enough. And if these wounds, these pains, these memories are not tended to, that's when things can get dangerous, right? Not dangerous. Well, dangerous for your well-being. But that's when things get stale and growth cannot growth cannot move forward, right? Your life cannot move forward. You cannot grow um, because of all this stuck the wounds and whatnot within you. So, hypercritical parent, hypercritical inner dialogue, never feeling good enough, always find yourself in this perfectionism loop, feeling like you're not good enough, so you overdo yourself, exerting yourself, getting exhausted because you have to like do more to prove yourself, but then you never feel good enough, and then it just continues in that cycle, right? And that's often a worthiness issue. And so the energy of the household, if you were raised in a toxic household, there is likely lack of safety in the body because as a kid, imagine you need your parents to create a safe space for you, right? And if if you don't have a safe environment, there's no way to ground and feel safe because we're so vulnerable as children, and that moves that moves into adulthood, right? And so those same fears, those same wounds move with us. And so then you might be, or you'll likely become an adult with a lack of safety in the body, which is not great for trying to build the life of your dreams and feeling aligned and in love with your life and building the life that you deserve, right? You can't move forward without safety in the body. Alrighty. So because the voice of the inner child is often unconscious, it can quietly influence your self-worth, your relationships, and the decisions you make as an adult. So like I said, if those wounds do not are not tended to, then they fester. They fester into body aches, disease, even mental fog, inner critic. And so these are some examples of my previous inner child. When she was very loud, needing attention, needing love, needing safety, these are the voices that she had. So I'll never be good enough. Nobody cares what I have to say. Nobody likes me. It's always my fault. I'm not meant to have nice things. What I have to say isn't important. I'm ugly. I'm fat. I'm not pretty enough. It's not safe for me to be myself. Right. And so the memories we go through, or sorry, the experiences we go through, like as we go through life, we attach meaning to those experiences, right? And then those experiences and those meanings we give to those memories, those become our beliefs, our unconscious beliefs that ultimately run our life. Um, and so obviously you can imagine this is not a very inspiring and an empowering inner dialogue, right? If you're trying to do something, if you're trying to reach a goal, I'll never be good enough. Nobody cares what I have to say. What I have to say is never important. Like it's just always my fault. Nobody likes me. Nobody cares. Like you're not going to be able to healthily grow and feel self-love, and feel acceptance and true nurturance of self. You're not going to feel that with this inner dialogue. Now, healing the inner child is a mind thing, but it's also a body thing. Okay. And so your body holds memory, and your nervous system is designed to protect you, which as a result keeps you safe and small. And so we love the nervous system for its love for you. We love that it loves you so much that it's always trying to protect you, but it also keeps you stuck from building the life that you love and that you deserve. Okay. And oftentimes, not often, all the time, always, the thing we want that seems out of reach is out of our comfort zone, right? And our body, our nervous system has formed a programming that like has shaped a comfort zone, right? And anything out of that comfort zone, our body will likely freeze. It'll fight, it'll flight, freeze, and it will not allow you to move forward because it deems growth, it deems getting out of that comfort zone unsafe, right? And your body wants to keep you safe. And so the memories you hold in your body that have not been tended to, they'll keep you stuck because you'll try to do that thing that's going to make you happy or that's going to bring you fulfillment, but you'll find you're not able to actually attain it or hold it because your body does not allow you to, right? And so that's where nervous system work comes in, which we're gonna get to. And so as you grow, your nervous system and your mind will try to stop you because it deems growth unsafe. I'm sure you guys have come across a time when, you're at the brink of something really great and your mental chatter just gets very loud, very negative, very scary. It's basically trying to prevent you from doing that thing because, like I said, it's out of the comfort zone, which means it's unsafe. And so doing nervous system healing, nervous system work, rewiring to hold more safety, you're essentially like expanding that zone of comfort in a way. And so you're able to hold more, if that makes sense. Alrighty. So why reparenting is the gateway to your power? As I mentioned, I don't know if I'm cutting myself off here. There we go. As I mentioned, we all carry unhealed inner versions of ourselves that live in the mind and body that silently influence our decisions, our relationships, our worthiness, and our capacity to receive love in abundance. So these parts are often invisible because they're unconscious. We don't know that we're just like operating on them, not knowingly, but they're powerful. They're so powerful. They literally dictate your life. And so to reclaim your power and your joy and your magic, you must first become the parent you never had. And so meeting your needs with compassion, love, and truth. And these wounds, as I mentioned, they form in childhood and they trickle into adulthood if they're not tended to. And it's not until we become aware of our woundings that we can begin transforming them. And so right over here, I have a little time lapse of my lifespan of my life up until this point. And this just illustrates what lives inside of us at all times. We are so complex. Like we're not just human bodies, we're souls. And we hold so many identities and so many aspects of ourselves, you know, our younger self, our past life self, higher self. Like we're so multidimensional, it's insane. And so here, going from my earliest my earliest memory, I actually don't remember this time period, but this little Carissa, she like just had so much fun. She was so playful. Not that I remember, but people telling me like stories about myself when I was a child. I was playful. I was like I just love to have fun, right? And then growing up, this little version of me was bullied for being fat and ugly. And so then the conditioning started to come in, right? I'm fat, I'm ugly. Okay, taking that as truth and making it a belief. This version of me, still bullied, right? No, and then that the feeling of being unlovable, not liked, that's like cemented even deeper. This version of myself loved creative arts. She loved painting, and drawing and all the great things. This version of myself, she just lost her mom a couple months ago, and she was in deep, deep, deep grief, like unspeakable grief, right? And then this version of myself, who was she? She did not believe that she could have nice things, you know? I have a cousin who was spoiled like crazy, you know, and she always had the nicest things. And so I took that experience of like her always getting the newest, nicest things and me not, or like me getting her hand-me-downs. I formed the belief that like I'm not good enough to have nice things, you know? And then all of those worthiness issues, all of those worthiness wounds, all the not enoughness, not smart enough, not pretty enough, not skinny enough, all of those trickled into adulthood. This was about 8 years ago. This version of myself, I love her because she was so brave, and so courageous, but she lacked confidence, big time. Lacked confidence and she lacked self-worth. As well as this version of myself here, she did not have an idea of what to do with her life. She didn't have an identity. Um, and so the unworthiness trickled down, trickled down, trickled down, trickled down until adulthood, until 2018, which, oh my gosh, math. It's 25. Almost like 8 years, I think like 8 years ago. It wasn't until 8 years ago that I woke up to that truth that I was holding such unworthiness wounds, that I was holding onto memories of me being bullied and me being belittled, put down. And it was crazy. And then as I grew, there were parts of me that were able to heal, that I was tending to, that were able to kind of open back up. The creative part of me, the joyful part of me, she was also able to come through. But these are more recent. But yeah, so it just goes to show what you're holding on to. And so if you have not even begun doing the work yet, you're holding on to all memories from when you were a child, a little baby, even in your mother's womb, actually. You're still holding on to a memory from your mother's womb. And so this is why the inner work is so important, especially if you're on that journey of spiritual growth, um, and an embodiment of goddess vibes. But let's move into my 5-step method for inner reparenting. So we understand what the inner child is, I hope. We understand the importance of it, right? And so what do we do now with all this information? Okay, I got shit, I got trauma, I got all the bullshit inside of me. How do I begin healing? And so over the years, it's always the same process, right? It's discover, desire, deep dive, transform, safety, and repeat as needed, right? And so through this process, we must become our own authority figure, our own parent in the process. And we essentially have to become the parent that we truly needed. And so let's let's treat our inner world like it was a child. Okay, we want to give our inner world the most utmost we want to give the utmost compassion, patience, safety, and love to our inner world, because this work is not easy. Okay, it might be simple, just step by step, this is what you got to do. But actually diving into your experience and your memories and your woundings and your programming, it's such a vulnerable place to be. And so it's so, so, so important to be compassionate and patient and give yourself so much grace, and safety and love, right? And so we discover, right? It all begins with awareness, because you cannot change if you're not aware of what needs changing. I feel like I need to repeat that. You cannot change if you are not aware of what needs changing, right? And so if you're here right now, I'm sure you've already noticed a pattern or behavior or experience that keeps you disempowered and out of alignment. Okay. And so a personal example of mine was holding the fear of being seen. So I noticed I froze and ran, or sometimes it was just freezing, away from the spotlight. And so when I was in the spotlight, I just would freeze up, I would run, hide myself. And so I noticed that. Okay, very interesting, right? We go with curiosity. Very interesting. So we become aware of the pattern that is keeping us disempowered, keeping us from growth. And so the desire. Now we want to understand how you want to feel. Okay. And often it's the opposite of what you're currently experiencing. And so please, please make sure to use your imagination, because imagination is your superpower. Like, imagination is so powerful. It's crazy. And visualizing helps you play with energy. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of a imagination exercise right now. So I want you to close your eyes wherever you are. Close your eyes. And I want you, with your mind's eye again, using your imagination, to think of a time recently in the past week. Think of a situation that pissed you off. Think of the people involved, what they said. Think about the environment you were in. Just think about how fucking annoying and frustrating that experience was. And I'll give you a moment to kind of just play with your imagination, remembering the colors, the tones, what people were wearing. Maybe you can remember a smell of the area, the environment. And notice if your body is feeling a type of way. Notice if you begin to get warmer, if your body begins to get tense. Notice if your heart rate increases. And notice if you actually start yeah. Notice if you actually start feeling irritable. Okay. Now let's shake that off. Let's shake that off. Okay. Shake it off. If you're feeling activated. But your mind, your imagination activates the energy in your body. Okay. Now let's close our eyes again, just so we can kind of get back into good vibes. Close our eyes again. And let's imagine a time this week that felt so amazing, that felt so good. And you just like felt happy and joyful and excited and just like amazing. And remember that. Remember the people involved. Remember what was said. And maybe there was sense. Maybe there was color. Imagine how that scenario went. And now notice your body. Notice the difference of what your imagination could do. It literally changes your body sensations, your imagination. And feeling is so important because that's how we manifest, and that's a whole other masterclass of feeling into our desires. But your imagination is so powerful, and a lot of us imagine negatively. We imagine um, like more of like the angry situation, and we get frustrated and we go over the same scenario again and again in our heads and our imagination, and we're just like, ah, we're getting ourselves irritated. But then also on the flip side, we can feel so amazing with our imaginations. Okay. And so desiring or desire is key, obviously, when you want to move forward in life. How do you want to feel? Knowing what you desire is very important. Because if you don't know how you want to feel, then you don't know how to feel, you know? And so my personal example was I desire to feel confident. I want to feel free and safe enough to speak my truth and be authentic without external and internal judgment holding me back, right? And that's quite the opposite of the fear, right? Fear of being seen. But I want to feel free. I want to feel safe enough. I don't want to freeze. I don't want to run away. I want to embody power, right? Alrighty. And these also can be used interchangeably. So you might actually have a desire first, like, hey, I actually really want to feel confident. And then kind of like have a discovery of like, well, I can't, I can't embody that because I'm holding a fear. So it could be used interchangeably. And then I love this part. I honestly love this part. Like diving deep with clients. Like, yes, please. I love getting into like the hardest, most painful wounds because yeah, it's just me. But it's time to dig into the unconscious. And so your unconscious is always speaking, but are you listening? But are you listening? Okay. And so the deep dive is the next step. And this is where we dissect your whole operating system, right? Going back to your earliest memories relating to your topic of desire. So you desire to feel confident. Okay, well, let's look at all the stories around like what meaning you gave to confidence. Maybe you gave meaning of like I can never be confident because I don't have this, or I was never told this, or I never went through this, so I can't be confident, right? We're going back into the memories, going back into the programming around that thing that we desire. So understanding our stories, or understanding what stories, what memories and beliefs your mind and body hold. Okay. So we can understand where your body and mind are operating from. And so, like I mentioned before, lean in with curiosity. We're not judging, we're not shaming, because we have all been through shit. All right. If you're listening to this, if you're watching this in the future, you've been through some shit. And there's no shame in the game. There's absolutely no shame in the game. And so you might feel like you want to shame yourself in the beginning, but be open to just letting that judgment go, leaning in with more curiosity. And so my personal example was my body held memories of being publicly humiliated multiple times throughout elementary school. So my mind and my body held the belief that being seen was dangerous, and my body learned to shrink and hide itself. So, gaining awareness of how we are programmed helps us understand why we hold ourselves back. All right. It always goes back to self protection because my body remembers that time when I was left on stage at what is it? It was a talent show. My body remembers that time when I was on stage on the talent show and I was humiliated in front of the basically the whole school, right? And so obviously now showing up the way I am, building a business around something that's so close and vulnerable to me, my body remembers like, oh, remember last time you were in front of a big crowd? Like that wasn't good. That didn't look good. And your body wants to protect you, which is so sweet of them, right? Of them, LOL, of it. Like it's so sweet of our nervous system to just like want to protect us always, but it holds us back, right? And so doing that somatic work, releasing the fears and the pains and the old memories, and then allowing in safety, giving ourselves permission, giving ourselves reassurance that it is okay to show up now, right? Or whatever it is for your case. But it always goes back to self-protection. And when we understand our programming better, when we have more clarity on it, we're better able to pinpoint our behaviors and our reactions. And having that awareness helps us kind of step back from the experience itself and be like, hey, okay, I'm noticing, my body sensations are acting this way. I'm freezing up. Okay, that must be related to that. Okay. Okay, so let's work on this then. Let's work on the freezing. And it's not like you're unconsciously like, oh, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what to do. Like, run away, you know? With understanding and awareness comes growth because then you just, have a better understanding of yourself. And that also creates more space for grace and compassion for self. All right, and then we move into transform. So stories, old stories and unconscious beliefs, they need to go bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you. You've been so nice so far, but we cannot move forward with them, right? To be our most authentic self, living our best lives. We can't have those same old stories. So some stories may be obvious, right? But others may not be because they live unconsciously and you may not know what other stories are going on internally. And so you might ask, how do I become aware of something that is unconscious? How do I become conscious of something that lies underneath the surface of my conscious? And so here's where to start. So observe your current reality, right? Observe the house you're in, your bank account, the relationships you have, the friendships you have, your career. Observe your whole reality, right? Because it's gonna mirror back to you what beliefs you're holding on internally. Okay. And also observe like your behaviors and your actions and observe your internal dialogue. This one is huge because our internal dialogue as mentioned, it's always speaking, right? The mind's always on, always speaking, always saying something. But are you listening to what it's actually saying? And I remember in the beginning of my journey years ago, I walked around with a notepad for I don't even like I would say a couple days. It wasn't a full week, but a couple days. I walked around with a notepad, writing down all of these reoccurring thoughts that I was having or even just random thoughts I would have, but definitely the reoccurring ones. And a lot of the times it was, I'm not good enough, or like, I couldn't do that, or whatever the case may be, but it was always disempowering. And so that is a clue. That is a clue to what is going on underneath, because these thoughts, they don't just come from nowhere. They come from, well, I shouldn't say that because some thoughts are so random and just come literally out of nowhere. But a lot of these recurring thoughts that you keep repeating to yourself over and over and over years and years, weeks and weeks, there's something underneath that needs tending to, right? And that's the unconscious. And so I can never do that. That seems out of my reach. Like I'm not good enough for that. That obviously leads to worthiness, right? And so doing work around that. And also notice your initial reactions and your body sensations as you navigate through your day. And so you might be speaking with a friend and she's telling you, or he's telling you, like something really great that's happening in their life. And internally, you might think, like, oh, I can never do that. Like, oh, that's so out of my reach. Like, that's so impossible for me. I can never do that. Ah, clue, clue. What is your initial reaction? That is a clue, as well as your body sensation. So if they're telling you that and your body's flaring up and you're feeling angry or you're feeling irritated or you're feeling jealous or whatever the case may be, that is a signal. That is a signal because there's something beneath that. There's something beneath that needs tending to. But there's a need, there's an unmet need that needs tending to, right? And so once we do that work, and once you're aware of your mental dialogue, we can begin switching the narrative. Because once again, if you're not aware of your internal dialogue or your inner dialogue, then you cannot change it, right? So once you're aware of your mental dialogue, then you can begin switching the narrative. All right. So I could never do that. When that comes up, immediately switch it to maybe maybe one day that could be possible for me. Maybe the truth isn't I could do that because that doesn't feel very realistic, right? Maybe it's just I'm open to the possibility of that happening for me. Little baby steps, little baby steps. And we want to switch that narrative every single time we hear something that is negative, that does not empower us. We want to flip that narrative and find a more empowering thought, right? And direct our mind. And that is a whole journey in itself because I know for me, my inner dialogue and my inner critic was like crazy. I had such a mean inner critic. But the inner critic also tries to protect us. So really all the mean things it's saying, it's trying to protect us, right? From going outside of our comfort zone. And so if it tells us you're not good enough, you can't do that, you're ugly, you're this, you're that, it's really that's out of love because it wants to keep you safe, which obviously it doesn't sound like love. But I just lost my train of thought. But we began switching the narrative. Oh yes, my crazy. And so having a thought and switching it, that took time in itself, Like it's not just like, oh, you're just gonna be a whiz, be a master at switching your thought as soon as you begin, because the mind gets loud, thoughts get loud, and it takes repetition, it takes time, it takes patience, it takes compassion to start switching for the thoughts to become more easeful, or for the switching of the narrative for that to become more easeful. But you want to choose a more empowering thought that better aligns with the person that you are becoming every single time, right? And so I kind of went over my example of an initial reaction of like, I could never do that. It's coming from a wounded place. That seems out of my reach. That's coming from a limiting place. So what wounds are those voices coming from, right? Safety, safety, safety. This got its own slide, all right? Because wowza, is this a huge one? All right. Safety is so huge. And this is something that I was not taught early on in my manifesting, mental reprogramming life. All right. And so what I've deeply learned over the past couple years is you cannot evolve and fully embody a larger life without cementing safety in the body. Okay. You can work on your mindset like crazy. You can be master level, like mindset shifter and begin attracting in your desires. But if you do not have the space in your body and the nervous system, you will not be able to hold it and grow with it. So, what you manifest into your life, you cannot hold it if your body does not feel safe enough to hold it. Okay. And so, somatic work is so key here. Somatic work, somatic work, somatic work. I'm saying it 3 times because it's so important. But that involves breath work. I mean, there's so many different modalities in somatic work, but the three that have been most beneficial and powerful for me is breath work, EFT, so it's tapping, and body exercises. So just doing like different mobility exercises, different little exercises, which is like that's a whole other masterclass, which I'll actually probably do at some point. But yeah, learning different somatic exercises to get your body feeling safe. And every little micro moment, every single day, you want to bring the body back to safety. All right? Because the goal is to rewire the nervous system to release fear and hold more safety. And so this was a huge learning lesson for me because back in, I want to say 2019, I started manifesting my dream partner. All right. It took me 2 years to actually like materialize him, but I started that journey back in 2019 and was journaling and visualizing and all the things, acting as if, all the things. And I was also building my coaching business back then, back around 2019, 2020, building my coaching business. And all of a sudden, I was doing all the mindset work, right? All of a sudden, I manifested my dream partner, who's now my husband. I manifested growth in my business. I manifested clients, all right? I manifested a new home, actually, relocation, which I was also manifesting. I manifested so much at once. And obviously, in the moment, it was amazing. Are you kidding me? Like, this stuff works. I actually manifested this stuff. But, but all of a sudden, my body froze the fuck up. I could not hold my business growth. I could not hold having more clients. I cannot hold the spotlight and being seen by more people. I could not. And so what happened? I shut off. My body was like, no, not happening. My nervous system was activated and shut off, shut down, froze. And I literally was not able to move forward. All right. And so I still have my husband. I was able to hold him, right? I did a lot of work around him, but I didn't do as much work around my business. And so, yeah, I thought, mindset was it. I didn't know about nervous system safety until recent years when I learned how important it is. And so that was a huge experience for me in knowing like how the body works. And so an example was going viral, and getting more clients made my body freeze up and run. I remember waking up one morning and like seeing my socials, and I had like hundreds of thousands of views and all these comments and follow like people, and I was just like stunted. And my body was like, no, can't put it away. And I literally didn't create content for like a year. And my nervous system, it's because my nervous system went into freeze and flight, right? There wasn't enough safety in my body for me to stay present and grounded when growth came. And this related back to my fear of being seen, the belief that being seen is humiliating, dangerous. So you see how that plays back into the inner child, back into old memories of when I was a kid, humiliated, bullied, coming now into my adulthood, right? I healed a bunch, clearly not enough. There was more work to do. But that fear of being seen really stayed with me. And it wasn't until, yeah, the past few years that I really started working on that fear of being seen because boy, did my body not want to hold any visibility at all. No, thank you. But my soul kept irking me and irking me to start my business back up. And yeah, I was like, well, I got to heal this visibility wound, so let's get it. But anyway, yeah, it's so interesting how we work, how multifaceted we are. And so essentially, the more you work, I'll end with this, the more you work on your nervous system and your mindset, the closer you become to embodying the person you know you came here to be. And this work has been the most challenging of my life, hands down, but it has also been the most rewarding work as well. And so thank you for listening. Thank you for joining if you're live. And yeah, I wish you all the love and patience and safety on your healing journey.